The Ionian Revolt, 499 to 493 BC. Long before the Persian armies landed on Greek shores, a pivotal conflict unfolded in the east, the Ionian Revolt. It was a rebellion against Persian oppression that would plant the seeds for the coming wars between the Persian Empire and Greece. While history often frames it as a local uprising, it was far more a stand against an imperial power seeking to control not only Greek lands but also their ancient knowledge, cultural traditions, and spiritual identity. The Ionian Greeks, who had been brought under Persian rule decades earlier, refused to bend entirely to the will of a foreign empire. And at the heart of this resistance stood Aristagoras, the so-called tyrant of Miletus. Though labeled as such by Persia, to the Greeks, he was a hero. The story of how the Ionians came to be under Persian rule begins with Cyrus the Great, who, after conquering Lydia, gained control over the Greek cities along the Aegean coast. 4 years, the Ionians had lived under Persian oversight, their once free cities forced to pay tribute and submit to Persian-appointed governors. Though Persia allowed a certain level of local governance, the Greeks in Ionia were bound by the yoke of empire. Yet they remained culturally and spiritually tied to their mainland kin. These cities, though distant from Athens and Sparta, shared the same devotion to freedom, their gods, and the heritage of their ancestors. By 499 BC, these tensions boiled over. Aristagoras, a leader with vision and fierce defiance, saw a chance to rally the Greeks of Ionia against their Persian oppressors. He knew this was more than a political struggle, it was a fight to preserve Greek culture and spiritual traditions. The Persians, seeking to maintain control over Ionia, had tightened their grip, exploiting the region's wealth and stifling its independence. Aristagoras, recognizing this as a threat to the very identity of the Greeks, called for revolt. Seeking support, Aristagoras reached out to his Greek cousins on the mainland. He appealed to Athens, whose people had deep spiritual ties to Poseidon, the god of the sea, and a fervent belief in freedom. The Athenians, outraged at the treatment of their Ionian kin, agreed to help. They sent a small fleet of 20 ships, a gesture of solidarity, but also a bold act of defiance against the mighty Persian Empire. Sparta, known for its military might, hesitated, finding reasons to stay out of the conflict. It was this Athenian support for their Ionian cousins that Persia would later use as justification for a full-scale invasion of Greece. But the truth was, the blue bloods, the shadowy elites behind the Persian throne, had long desired to bring Greece under their control. Greece was seen as not just a land of warriors but as the keeper of ancient wisdom, a repository of knowledge and spiritual traditions that the Persians sought to dominate. The revolt in Ionia and Athens' involvement gave Persia the pretext it needed to pursue a grander goal, the conquest of the entire Greek world. The revolt began with a bold strike. In 498 BC, the Ionian rebels, along with their Athenian allies, captured Sardis, the seat of Persian power in the region. The city was burned, an event that sent shockwaves through the Persian Empire. This act of defiance marked a point of no return. Though the Greeks had always been in the sights of the Persian Empire, the burning of Sardis provided the perfect excuse for Darius to extend his empire westward into Greece. Enraged by the audacity of the revolt, Darius I, the Persian king, vowed to punish both the Ionians and their Athenian supporters. Darius' motivations were not solely driven by anger, this rebellion provided a convenient justification for a long-planned invasion. The Persians had always viewed the free Greek cities as a threat to their empire, not only because of their military potential but because they represented a bastion of ancient knowledge, spiritual strength, and intellectual freedom that could challenge Persian dominance. The Persian response was swift and overwhelming. Artaphernes, Darius' brother and the Persian satrap of Lydia, quickly rallied the empire's forces to crush the revolt. The Greek rebels fought valiantly, their resistance fueled by a desire to preserve their identity and independence. Aristagoras led the charge, but despite early successes, the Persian war machine was too vast, too powerful. The rebellion dragged on for 6 years, with neither side willing to concede. By 494 BC, the Ionians had suffered severe losses, and the heart of the revolt, Miletus, came under siege. It was a devastating moment for the Greeks. The great city, the birthplace of the revolt, was surrounded and cut off. Aristagoras' dream of a united, free Ionia was crumbling. The Persians, with their superior numbers and resources, laid waste to Miletus. The city fell, its people enslaved or killed, and the once proud walls of Miletus were razed to the ground. The Ionian Revolt was crushed, but its significance would echo far beyond Ionia. The rebellion and Athens' involvement had crossed a line, one that Darius and the Persian elites had long been waiting for. It was the perfect opportunity to launch a full-scale invasion of mainland Greece, not just to punish Athens but to bring all of Greece under Persian rule. The Blue Bloods, who moved behind the scenes of the empire, were particularly interested in Greece's spiritual and intellectual heritage. The libraries, the temples, the ancient histories, they were all targets of the Persian invasion. The Ionian Revolt may have ended in failure, but it had lit a flame of resistance that would soon spread across all of Greece. The Greeks were far from defeated. Their faith in their gods, their freedom, and their ancient ways would soon be tested on the battlefields of Marathon, Thermopylae, and beyond. And though the Ionians had fallen, the spirit of Greek defiance would rise again, shaking the very foundations of the Persian Empire. The fight to protect their ancient knowledge, their gods, and their independence had only just begun.